Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Wow. Crazy, John. Your mic is muted, by the way.
There we go.
Yeah.
And now we're good?
Now we're good.
Excellent, man. Well, welcome to Word Balloon, everybody, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. As I was telling Dan Panosian off the air, I'm having some computer issues, but we will muddle through best we can. And I'm very happy to welcome Dan to Word Balloon. A long time coming, Dan. It's really appreciate you being with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Longtime fan and excited for your debut of Canary that starts this week from Best Jacket, you and Scott Snyder. I love Westerns, and I'm so thrilled that you're doing a Western. Tell me how you got together with Scott on this while I try to bring up some images of Canary.
Oh, okay. Well, Scott and I have been talking about it for some time, and how we were going to do it and where we were going to do it was always, a mystery to us both. And, he's a super busy guy, and it's crazy since he's kind of left and gone on his own here. He's even busier. So I don't know how he manages to do it. And he's working with so many talented people for the Comixology launch, and he also has the launch at Image and various other companies. I think he's even doing something with IDW, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's all over the place. So I'm just part of one of them. And Canary, I love Westerns too, and I love horror films. I'm a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, and I like Westerns. God, ever since I was a kid. My middle name's Duke. My dad named me after John Wayne.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted that in the credits. I was like, maybe it should be Daniel Duke Panosian instead of just Dan.
Oh, and thank you, man, because I don't want to mispronounce your name, Panosian. Okay, very good. Mediterranean guy. I like that.
Yeah.
And I know German as well. I want
a little bit of Welsh.
A little bit of Welsh. Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, all right. First of all, as I'm trying to bring up this image of Canary, let's start at the beginning in terms of you breaking in, because you broke into comics really young.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do. I was a fan since I was a little kid. My dad used to bring me comic books, and he liked comic books, so that kind of helped. And he was an artist. He was basically like a John Hamm character. Whoops, what's going on here? Dave Johnson getting a little jealous.
Hey, give Dave our best. Absolutely, man. I love Dave.
Yeah, there he is. Devil pig himself. Yeah, so I've always liked comics. So even by the time I was in high school, I was working for smaller companies like Blackthorn and Eternity, which was also in Malibu, and there were some other companies like that. I was primarily doing inking, but every now and then they'd let me pencil something. I think my first gig was with Americomics, AC Comics.
Sure.
It's Bill Black's company. And they were local. I grew up in Cleveland, but then our family moved to Florida. So by the time I was, able to actually contribute in any sort of, meaningful way, but contribute, let's put it that way, I was in Florida. So it was neat. Comic book conventions were starting to happen, and I got to go to the Creation Con. I think I was 14, and I met Jim Shooter and Bob Layton and Bob Wyacek, all these, important, Mike Zeck, all these guys that were, I couldn't believe I was actually meeting them. It was neat. So
that's awesome.
I got, pardon?
No, continue, please.
Oh, yeah. So, I did it in high school, and it gave me a lot of experience. And by the time I was 21, I moved to Marvel, and I was lucky enough I went to a convention again, and that's a great place to network. And I still feel it is, because you want that human connection, and you want to be able to meet these people and actually see the reality of I'd rarely ever seen comic book pages up close, until I went to a convention. But yeah, I met Walt Simonson, who helped me break in. He actually made a phone call for me. He's very gracious of him to do so. I met Joe Kubert and I met Neil Adams all at the same convention. I got work from Neil. I worked briefly for continuity, and I started immediately at Marvel doing backup comics, backup features in Thor and Doctor Strange and Captain America.
That's awesome, man. No, and very cool. And especially meeting Shooter too, a guy that would appreciate a young person, you know,
he's pretty young when he
talent at a
started.
young age. Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget that, but yeah, he was very young when he first started.
Absolutely. I'm going to see him at Terrificon at the end of the month. I'm not going to San Diego, unfortunately, because 3 conventions in a row would probably kill me, Dan. I got to be honest.
Yeah, you get all kinds of COVID.
That too. Even before that, though, just as I'm sure you can appreciate, I don't know how many back-to-back shows you do these days, but man, I don't know. I'm in my 50s, and I'm just like, I can't do it like I used to anymore, man. That's just too much.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's just it takes a few days to recover after one of those things, just from just getting back, the travel, all that stuff, and getting settled. So
yeah,
I don't do too many conventions. I do maybe 4 a year tops. Maybe, who knows, with this book coming out and all the different, I'm writing a few different books. Most of them I contribute artwork to, but I'm super busy, so I want to go down and promote them and get people excited and aware of it.
Well, that's the thing, man. And truly, I've always appreciated your covers. That's awesome. Sally Bonatti is chiming in, who's already at San Diego, I believe. And he says, you're a beast. And you are.
He'll be there. Thanks, Sal.
Oh, yeah.
He's a mainstay and a sharp dresser.
I absolutely, man. I always say he looks like a Chicago alderman running for office.
Yeah. When he walks in the room, everyone's checking for the exit doors. If something goes down, the Gatling gun comes out, or Tommy gun.
He's hilarious. Absolutely. Yeah. What else is he saying here? I got to see his second comment. No, he's nuts. He's a good man. Yeah. I'm excited for you being at San Diego and everything, and promoting Canary, but also these other projects, and including your sketchbook. I'm going to get up some Canary here because I do want to get into it. Let's see.
In the meantime, we got I have an art book. I haven't put one out in a while, but this is going to be a hardcover art book that's crowdfunded, and we're using Zoop, which is a really cool, it's like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but they really work closely with artists in particular. So it's been a lot of fun putting the thing together, and we launch during San Diego. We're going to have some specials. So if you're in San Diego at the conventions and at some of the panels, they're going to open up like the early bird special, I guess that's what they call it.
Sure.
And you'll get some cool extra stuff for signing up early. So I think I don't know if you put the link in yet, but if you go to that link, you can get notifications early, and the exact official launch when it'll happen, which I imagine is the Tuesday following the San Diego Comic-Con, with people settle back in.
Well, here's the Zoop page, everybody, and there's the cover.
My goodness.
I'm excited. No, I'm excited, man. Now, this sketchbook, does it include your? Oh, I'm sorry, man. I hear my video going.
Oh,
sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
As I said, I'm having a little issue with my laptop, so it might fire up by mistake. Is the Zoop page is up though, correct?
The Zoop page is up. You're looking at it right now, and
Beautiful.
You can put your email in there. They'll send you notifications. Allow the cookies. The cookies are delicious, so gobble those up.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, the sketches in it and stuff, are they also from drink ups and things, as far as
drink and draw? Yeah, there's a lot of drink. I mean, it's a good place for me to post all the posts and everything. So computerized these days. Publish all the cool, drinking. I have more fun, honestly, doing the drink and draw stuff than I do sometimes the actual comic book work. You'll see a lot of those things, and close-up details, work in progress. Like, it's not a tutorial by any means, but you get to see the stages of how these things are completed in some cases. There'll be some behind-the-scenes artwork for all the projects, like things from Unkindness of Ravens from Slots to
Jesus.
Canary, Alice Ever After, and upcoming projects that haven't been released yet. You get to see little sneak previews. Not to mention a lot of the cover work I've done for, kind of the bigger publishers.
That's great, man. And again, I hope I know some harmonica stuff was going on in the background. I've got windows open that I shouldn't have had open, and nothing dirty. Don't worry, everybody. Nothing.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I'm so sorry. My monitor is totally like going out of control in terms of firing off videos and things. So I apologize. But there's the Zoo page, everybody.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, check it out. Sign up early. There'll be some cool extra stuff if you do, and we're gonna, populate the page with all sorts of little extras here and there.
That sounds great, man. No, I'm really excited for you. And again, I've been watching your drink and draw videos with Dave Johnson, Jeff Johnson, the great guest stars that you guys get, and I just appreciate all the different ideas you guys come up with in terms of things to draw. And hey, man, I mean, I'm still a superhero fan, but obviously you appreciate the other genres as well. And I mean, goddamn, man, I love when you do war stuff. I meant to bring it up, the cover that you did for that Chaikin.
What an honor! What an honor to I mean, the fact that I got to do a cover for a book Howard was working on. I mean, I was a huge fan ever since I was a kid. I mean, I have every single American flag, all it just all his Marvel work, DC work here and there. Has he done? Yeah, he must have. He's done work for everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah. Of course, Of course he has. Now I'm thinking of like Black Hawk, things like that.
Absolutely. Now he's one of my favorites. He's a word balloon regular as a guy who comes on a couple times a year can be, and I'm so glad that he comes back. Frankly,
yeah. He's got a lot on his mind. Howard's got a lot he wants to make known.
Indeed. Hey, I'm already getting other comments and questions. Ed has a question. How did the project come for the film Logan, the prop retro X-Men comic book? Am I saying that? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Logan was I think the coolest Wolverine movie they've made so far. Yeah. And what happened was because it's with Fox, Marvel wasn't going to give them any X-Men comics, and part of the storyline is they needed this. Logan's daughter is a huge comic book fan, and she's like reading these comics. So, and in them, there's a little like, hey, there's a place where mutants can live free and do it all. But it was in the comics, so basically I had to create all these covers that look like 80s retro covers, and then I got to do some stories inside, and then eventually Joe Quesada, who's also a regular on the Drink and Draw YouTube thing we have. Yep. Joe got involved, and he did kind of the pencils for one of the comics in there and one of the covers also. And then I got to ink it, color it, and script it, which is kind of neat. And there's all sorts of little Easter eggs in there. I mean, you'd have to really use the pause button to see, the names on the covers are, rips on like John Byrne and different, my favorites, but I gave them different names and signed different ways, I think, just to make it fun. So it felt like from that era. But yeah, it was a real treat to, Wolverine's, I don't know if anybody follows my work, but that's, one of my favorite characters in Conan. So it was an honor to work on that film. It's super exciting. It took a long time, but I had a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted.
Outstanding, man. No, I remember those absolutely. And again, but as much as I adore your covers. I'm so glad that you're doing interiors, because even looking up old stuff for a while, it was always, ink. And don't get me wrong, those are the finishes and stuff. So your work is clearly there on the old interiors that you did at Marvel and the like. But I'm glad that you're doing not only covers, but also just the interiors of Canary. I mean, it looks great. In fact, my CK21 says the great Dan Panosian. Can't wait for Canary. I agree with that. And the Wheeze has a comment about Extreme Comics. He says those books were so underrated. They're like a summer movie blockbuster. He misses that kind of art these days.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a fun era in comics. The 90s and Extreme and Wildstorm kind of exemplified that whole era. You know, Todd McFarlane's comics, and everybody. It was just a fun time, and it was really a big learning opportunity for me because Marvel would let me pencil a cover here or pencil a backup story there. And I'd never really. I think Prophet was the first full comic book I ever drew. So, you know, trial by fire. But luckily, the industry is very forgiving, and in some cases, people, you know, even prefer that work. So that's pretty neat.
Well, I can appreciate that. Are you involved with the new Prophet stuff? That
I mean, I don't. Rob recently printed a re-release of the first issue, and they recolored the cover. And now there's, I think, coming up. I don't think it's been released yet, but maybe it's next month or this month, or maybe at San Diego Comic-Con. They're doing a remaster. So I redrew one of the original pages in, you know, kind of my updated style.
Sure.
You know, they had a lot of top talent come in there and do their versions of that first issue. So it's a pretty cool looking book. But yeah, as far as working on Prophet or having anything to do with that, that's all Rob. That's one of the few things he kept. Like when he sold off Youngblood, he kept Prophet because I know it's one of his favorite characters.
Yeah, and I know it's. I mean, I don't know where it is in as far as production or development, but I know a while ago it was announced that it was in development to be a film, which is great.
Yeah,
for Rob,
supposedly Jake Gyllenhaal is going to play Prophet.
Cool.
It'd be weird to see. I mean, my favorite version of Prophet is the Brandon Graham, you know, the Royal stuff. It's kind of like a version from Heavy Metal Magazine. I thought it was pretty cool. Like that was very trippy, old school comics, and I prefer that over my work any day. I'd rather read. You know, I'm a fan of that Prophet, that version.
I hear you, man. Here, all right. I'm going to bring up Canary, the page from Best Jacket, and tell me, you know, not only the cover there, great cover.
Crazy, I like it.
All right, can you see it? Because honestly, the video just flew. The Fist video just happened again on my end, so I hope it didn't interrupt the broadcast.
Life goes on. Yeah, that's the cover for issue number 1. And was that on Best Jacket? I haven't been to the website in a while. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from Best Jacket. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So did Scott give you your choice of ideas, or did you guys come up with this together?
Well, no, Scott wanted to do a horror Western, and he, you know, he's smart in the sense that he, you know, he'll work with artists, he'll play to their strengths, and he knows I like Westerns, and you know, we discussed it a little bit. So it's probably either going to be, you know, some kind of science fantasy thing, or a Western, or some kind of crime noir thing, and it worked out this way. And Scott's story is really cool. I mean, it reminds me of when I was writing and drawing slots. Like there wasn't a page that I did of slots that felt like work. And when I'm drawing Canary, it's you know, this is, you know, I feel like a fan. Like I get to just, you know, pretend I'm, you know, some of those famous, you know, guys like Mobius and Severin, all these people that did great Western comics.
Oh yeah.
You know,
that's truly seeing the images that we've seen so far. It immediately evoked memories of when Mobius was doing Lieutenant Blueberry, things like that. I mean, I'm sure you're too also a fan of Joe Kubert's texts.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, no, and you know, I'm fortunate enough. I'm looking at my wall right now. I have a Tony DeZuniga Jonah Hex that he did for me.
Oh wow.
12 years ago. Yeah. I feel very fortunate. But yeah, man, I mean, that's the thing. We're close enough in age. You're younger, but
maybe.
You know,
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be 58 in December.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit younger.
A little bit younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. Was your dad a fan of beyond superhero books? Was he a fan of the other genres as well?
Well, he liked, I mean, he liked some superhero stuff, but he liked Westerns. He's a big fan of John Buscema. He's a fan of Neil Adams, Walt Simonson.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of some of the other guys he liked. Those were kind of standouts for him. That Don Newton, he liked his work.
Love Don Newton, absolutely.
Don Newton. I mean, I still have these Phantom comic books he did. I like those even better than the Batman stuff he did later. But the Phantom came out tremendous. It had a real effect on me, and so did seeing early John Buscema work.
I get it. No, I totally get it. When I met Kubert, I can't even remember the name of the DC naval character. I think he was one of the original Losers.
Oh, and yeah, it's funny.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I recently Warner Brothers do these animation shorts, and I did some preliminary concept character design for the Losers, and it just came out on DVD.
Wow.
So it was kind of neat to work on. Is, you know, they said try to make it as Kubert as you can. So I don't know. Funny. I mean, those guys at Warner Brothers Animation, what they do a lot of times is, you know, they can work with whoever they want, and they're talented enough that they really don't necessarily need concept work outside. I think they do it more as they like to have fun, and you know, they want to work with people that, you know, have, you know, they knew I was a fan of Kubert, so it was a nice match. But yeah, it came out far better than if I had more involvement, it wouldn't be as good. Let's put it that way.
Well, I understand. My CK21 says he loves the Phantom, underrated character. I completely agree. And it's so interesting. I have friends like Alex Saviak who's worked on the Phantom over the years. And it is interesting how King Features really can get, you know, very particular in terms of what they want the Phantom to do and not to do. And I understand that, but by the same token, sometimes I worry about these older characters. They are so protected by the people that own the IP that I feel like sometimes we don't get a lot of great new product because of some of their rules sometimes, or their unwillingness to make a deal maybe that works from an economic standpoint. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've never worked on it. I think Marvel had the license at one point, and I got to ink over Steve Ditko for a double page spread pinup. That was the closest I've ever worked on the Phantom.
That is amazing.
Well, if you saw the inks I did, you wouldn't agree. But at that time, everyone was, the editorial suggestions were always like, get his, make it look like X-Men.
That's the Phantom.
Yeah, well, make it look like, make Steve Ditko look like an X-Men artist. And so all that, the way Steve Ditko draws, this is the way he draws. And so me trying to render that stuff and change the line work to make it look like an X book, I don't know. I don't think it worked. I don't think that was a success. But I can say that I worked on, Steve Ditko, which is not too many people can say that.
Hell yeah, absolutely, man. And also, it is interesting sometimes, and I can appreciate that kind of challenge. But I have to say, as a layman, I always find that stuff kind of interesting, where you get an inker and a penciler who, when they're combined, it becomes something completely different. And that's based on what you're talking about. That sounds like kind of what happened.
Yeah, if it was a success, it would be one thing. But, it's like putting Klaus Janson in with certain people. Like, Klaus is a very powerful inker. And he has a, you can look at his work and you go, oh, Klaus inked that, or Terry Austin inked that, or, so and so. He's recognizable stamp on anything he does. So, when Klaus gels with the right artist, it becomes something beyond what, if someone just handled it, because most of these artists, they pencil how they pencil, and a faithful inker is going to ink them faithfully. And it's not that Klaus isn't trying to be faithful. It's just he brings a lot to the table, and he's an exceptional, complete artist himself in that way. So working with him is, that's something most artists would probably look forward to.
I understand, man. My buddy Mike Norton, when he was doing Green Arrow for a while, Bill Sienkiewicz was inking over him. And
he's another one.
Came out completely different from Mike's style and kind of different from Bill's style. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
so definitely.
Bill's another powerhouse that did a lot of inking, surprisingly, just because it's easier and faster. I mean, I miss inking here and there because inking for me is the most fun I'm having while I'm drawing. And so, yeah, Scott Williams was a huge influence on my work early on. And yeah, that to me is like, you don't have to think as much. And that Bill Ray used to make a funny joke. He goes, "Don't think, just ink." Or maybe he was quoting another famous artist, but he certainly liked to throw that one in. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Penciling takes a lot of work, obviously. Starting with a blank page is never an easy process, because you have limitless ways to go for every single panel.
Just so you know, when I shift my eyes, I'm always looking at the comments. Neil and Julie Johnson, are they related to Dave?
Every Johnson is related to the other Johnson. Isn't that yeah.
But they're happy that you're in the house. And Ed, yes, I was thinking of Captain Storm, one of the losers, the PT boat commander. Yeah. And when I met Joe, I'm like, who is this drawing this? I'm like, I don't think it's you. And I believe it was either Don Newton. I'm pretty sure it was Don Newton. But it was cool. One of those Silver Age Captain Storm solo books. So I don't know about you, man, but I am always hunting for any army or war, I should say, and Western stuff from the Silver Age as far as covers. And I mean, I've gotten like reader copies that if I open the damn thing, it'll crumble. But I really just bought it for the Greg Kubert cover, or name your favorites, from that era that were doing war books and Westerns and stuff. I just love that stuff. So
I like the detective stuff. I really dig like creepy and eerie and
yes,
the Warren books, and particularly heavy metal. Like, to me, that was like a whole different way to enjoy comics. Like, I was a teenager and I was into, and they seem a little bit salacious at that age. Like, oh,
sure,
this is so adult, but it's still interesting. And there's, Marvel has a house style, DC has a house style. Very, they're both very similar. But when you start getting into heavy metal, you start getting all these European influences and even some insane stuff that might not necessarily fit into what we perceive as typical comics. So it was real big eye opener and helpful in my career.
I can appreciate that, and God, the Warren stuff in that beautiful grayscale, and so many great classic artists and writers. Neil and Archie Goodwin
Archie Goodwin.
Did you know Archie?
I've met him a few times. I can't really say I know him, but I'd see him at the offices, and he's very kind, and obviously I was very familiar with his work. Yeah.
No, I love talking to the people that got a chance to collaborate with him, like Dan Brereton, for example, and Howard, Neil says he's going through Marvel's Tower of Shadows from 1969 right now. Another great book that I think.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Even the EC stuff, which I never really got into all the EC stuff, but I was a big fan of Wally Wood, and I probably checked out everything Wally Wood did, especially his collaborations with Harvey Kurtzman, and I think that was some of his best work when he worked with Harvey.
So, you mentioned earlier too, and especially talking about the extreme days and things like that. What do you think? Like, compare the eras. Obviously, we had the big speculation bubble happen in the 90s, but from a genre and creative standpoint, and obviously evidenced by you working with Scott on the Best Jacket stuff and Canary, how do you think genre back then, different genres beyond superheroes, and genre now compare?
I don't think, if I'm being very candid, I don't think there's much to compare really. That 90s era was kind of a celebration of kind of artists just having a free for all. I mean, there's not a whole lot of, if you're looking at pure 90s comics, and when you say that, it's typically Image Comics or X-Men comics or whatever was the hot book at DC at the time. And as far as what was happening there, I don't think you're going to find too many stories that still resonate today. I don't think you're going to have comics beyond like just the visuals that really stay with you. I think what stays with you in a comic book is something, and I can only speak from my perspective, is, and it might have to do with the age I was when I was introduced to this stuff. But like, when you read the run of Walt Simonson's Thor book, for instance, like that sticks with you when you read what was happening with Daredevil, when Frank Miller was doing it, when he was doing it with Mazzucchelli, that era of comic books, those stories kind of stayed with you, and they shaped and framed maybe people moving forward too. And I think even professionals, I think unfortunately what happened was, a lot of those big images, the art kind of took precedence over stories, and we read comic books for the stories. If we want to look at pictures, we can look at book covers, I guess, but
or your sketchbook.
Comics should be about stories. So for me, there were standouts. You had Vertigo happening back then, but those weren't as popular. You had guys like Chris Pacello doing great stuff at DC, and then they brought him over to Marvel, and he brought something very interesting and weird to Generation X. I did his first Marvel work. I inked him on X-Men Unlimited #1, I believe, and even that stuff I was asked to kind of X-Men it up. When you have an artist like Chris Pacello, he doesn't need that sort of polish on the work, really. So, but I tried to remain as faithful as I could to what he did, and but yeah, that era to me, financially fantastic, but as far as great comics, there's very few.
No, I get it, man. Absolutely. Ed Cato says he just bought your Daredevil #1 variant, clever and gorgeous. So well
done. I love that cover. Thanks. That's just one of my, it's intimidating working on a book like Daredevil, because you think of Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli and Klaus and
Colin.
All these awesome guys. So that cover to me is like a love letter to that era.
I get it. Absolutely, man. Well, and Drink and Draw. I mean, I'm assuming, did you guys get together anyway in LA or wherever? I don't even know where you are actually currently.
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah.
You are in LA. Okay. Yeah. I should know that because when we arranged this, we were talking to West Coast time. But yeah, so were you guys getting together physically with Drink and Draw, and then
we started. I'm sure every artist has drawn in bars before. It's a good way to meet people. If you're single, it's a good conversation opener too. And so Dave Johnson, Jeff Johnson, and myself, Dave was like, "Hey, let's do this and call it Drink and Draw, and let's get together and give you an excuse to come out." And I was married when we started it, and you can't just be constantly going out to bars when you're married. But if you come back with some drawings, you go, "Look, I wasn't, being terrible. I was doing these drawings." So at least that was Dave's plan. But my wife's great. She's like, "Go out." Maybe she just wants me out of the house. I don't know. But we had a great time, and it wasn't until the pandemic hit that we were like, "Oh, now we can't go out and do this anymore. What can we do?" So we started this YouTube channel, and I put that together, and we've taken a little bit of a break right now over summer, but Jeff Johnson is consistently putting out videos. We each have our own little sub chapters in there. Like mine's called Urban Barbarians Roadhouse, and Jeff's is called Another Round with Jeff Johnson, and Dave has Devil Pig Select. So we can all do individual stuff, but it's the most fun when we all get together.
Yeah, it's the stories, and especially, goddamn, when you have Howard on, or you have when Joe comes in, or Walter Simonson. I mean, it's so great to you guys hang out. I mean, I'm so glad you guys do it, and truly, I'm one of the viewers. And again, the work that you guys do during it are just so spectacular, and that's why I'm really glad that it's going to be represented in your sketchbook in Zoop, because truly some of those images, it's like, oh my God, I would love to.
We have a great time. You can tell everybody's enjoying themselves. When Drink and Draw started out, we basically just doodling on napkins almost. It was nothing, and then it just kept. Sometimes artists are competitive, and you got great talents like Jeff and Dave on there, and everybody's trying to do their best work, and also you're drawing what you want to draw. In this business, even though if it were up to me, Canary would just be one gunfight or people riding horses, but you actually have to draw a story. So but when you're doing drink and draw, you're drawing whatever you want. No one's dictating what you draw. So if you want to, like someone like Jeff or Dave, who's, when they think outside of the box, you don't know what you're going to get. So it's always entertaining.
Well, I want to acknowledge some of the other comments. I'm not going to be able to put them on screen, but my CK21 says drink and draws are the best. They hope that you'll get the band back together again. Zach Goyette agrees the drink and draws are fun. And Neil and Julie Johnson say your Asterix art was ridiculous.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I like Asterix. That's a great comic. Great BD.
I can't imagine you drawing Asterix. That sounds great. Would it be on your Instagram? I should go on your Instagram if it's there.
I don't think that one's there. But it was just, we tackled so many different subjects on there. We try to keep it odd and interesting.
You succeed, honestly. And who said it? I'm trying to see. Someone had said in the chat that they love your Instagram. Is it under Urban Barbarian as well?
Yeah, it's you can see my name here. My Twitter is at Urban Barbarian, and so is my Instagram.
Cool.
So I put everything on both those platforms, and I'm kind of up to the friend list you can get to on Facebook, but you can still follow that account. And I put a lot of the artwork on there as well. But it'll be nice to do this art book, and I've never done a hardcover art book before. And what's different about this one, if anyone picked up the second one, there's a lot of, if you buy a real art book, you're looking through Frank Frazetta's art books, there's commentary and there's discussion about whatever piece you're looking at in many instances. And that's kind of missing from a lot of the sketchbooks that you see at conventions. It's just one image after another, which is never a bad thing. That's why we buy those books. But what I wanted to do, and what I did with number 2 and what I'm doing with number 3 is it's kind of a parody of a real art book. So all the nonsense and all the prose within this book is just garbage, honestly. But it's funny. At least I find it funny. It reminds me of when Barry Windsor Smith came out with his Opus books. Like, I started reading that stuff, and I'm like, what am I even reading? Like, this man's out of his mind, and it's in a glorious sense. He's out of his mind. But he's just telling stories, and they might not have anything to do with the artwork you're looking at. He's talking about the industry, but in very vague terms. And I mean, those books are hilarious just to read. So this book is going to be similar. So don't take it too seriously. Well,
and everyone, it's zoop.gg /C/Urban Barbarian. But again, if you do a Google search for Zoop and Panosian, you're going to find it. And I'm sorry, say your name again, Dan, because I keep saying it.
I pronounce it Panosian. It's just easier. Panosian. Yeah, like a pan floating in an ocean. But I hear every variety, and it's fine with me.
It's all good, man. No, I can appreciate that. Are there characters? Here's a stock question, because as you said, you got to kind of love what you're drawing. Are there characters that you have been offered where you're like, I don't know if I feel it to be able to do a good job? Yeah.
A lot of times.
Do you mind naming some, or?
Pardon?
Would you mind naming some, or it's okay if you don't want to? But I was just curious.
I mean, the only reason I wouldn't want to is I don't, people have favorite characters, and they take it personally if you say you don't like that character. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
It's fine. Yeah, no, I get it.
But there's a lot of times I get offered stuff or covers, and luckily I'm becoming busier and busier, and with my own writing projects that I have going on, and with all the work I'm doing, I can start saying no to stuff. And now before as an artist, you have to take what you can get. I mean,
totally.
The moment you say no, an editor is going to find someone who says yes, and if they said yes, chances are the next assignment that comes up, they go, who said yes? Well, I just worked with this artist, so I'm going to shoot it that way. So it's if you are starting out in the business, or even if you've been in the business a long time, you learn to say yes to pretty much anything that comes across your table.
But that's why I think this era is great too, because now, and it's been going on for, I think, the last 20 years or so, maybe 15, but really you can take your audience and you really have there's a direct connection in a way there wasn't before, likely because of social media and stuff. And, they come for you as opposed to just the X-Men or
Yeah, I
Wolverine
hope
or
so.
name your favorite character and everything. Well, no, I think
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
I mean, I hope they do. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't have like a massive following like a Todd McFarlane or like a Robert Kirkman. I have a nice following, and it's urban barbarian, and it's very I guess barbarian or noir centric, but every now and then I like to diversify, and I have a lot of different interests, and the writing is pretty diversified. Like I don't know if Alice Ever After is on brand with a Conan audience that prefers that stuff. I mean, as a kid, I followed whatever say John Byrne did or whatever John Buscema was working on, or regardless of the content. But there was certainly would I have preferred to see John Byrne drawing something else other than Next Men? Yeah. I definitely would have. So I worry sometimes, like maybe, I should be sticking to, my wheelhouse, but, I like to expand that and hopefully, my fan base can kind of grow with me is the hope.
I hear you, man. Well, again, I think this era's readers are a little hipper to following creators even more so. And again, now with creator-owned stuff, you're able to, put out your own ideas. I'm glad you mentioned Alice Ever After. I wanted to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Please tell me about it. Now, you're on issue 5, and it's a boom. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm actually drawing the final page today. After we get done with this interview, I have
Oh,
to
wow.
finish up that page. So I do all obviously I write it.
Yeah.
But the art is handled by these two terrific Italian artists, Giorgio Spallata and Fabiano Mascalo. And Fabiana actually colored An Unkindness of Ravens at Boom that I wrote, and she's spectacular. And she also colored a book. I adapted a Lou Zixon novella and turned it into like a 68-page book that's originally published in China, and now they're venturing out there. It's going to be published in the UK and in Germany. And eventually it's going to make it here to the US. But Fabiana colored that. But long story, semi-short, is I do all the flashbacks for when Alice is back in Wonderland. And Fabiana colors it. So it's fun to actually draw the books I work on, but it's really fun seeing what Giorgio and Fabiana do as far as the interior pages. It's brilliant stuff. And from a writer who's an artist, sometimes you see, while I'm writing these pages, I can imagine what this page would look like, say, if I drew it. But getting to see what Giorgio and Fabiana do, I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I would have drawn it that way. And I like this so much better that they drew it than whether I drew it. It's really neat to see it come together. And it's a blessing to work with people whose work you respect and admire.
And, it sounds like Boom is the right place for this kind of book. And I think that's great.
I'm glad that they took a chance. I mean, when the word creator sounds so pretentious, but when you're a creator, and you're pitching these companies, you never know what they're going to land on. And so
sure.
I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, I threw in a lot of different pitches, and I go, I'm going to offer them Alice Ever After and see what they think, because it's something I had been working on for years, developing. And when I say working on, I mean, I'm just like adding, like, I'd like to see this, I'd like to do that, and here's the outline of the book in a very loose sense. But Boom is an interesting company because their bread and butter isn't necessarily superhero stuff. It's very diversified. There's a lot of horror. There's a lot of fantasy. So I thought so it's interesting they took a chance on it, and I'm super glad it resonated well with fans. I feel very fortunate and lucky that it also helps that people know who Alice is from,
of course,
from the books, of course, number one, and the Disney movies and the Tim Burton films.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're doing the sketchbook through Zoop. Do you think you would want to go to that next step in terms of presenting something that you want, a passion project that you haven't found a publisher for, that you'll, maybe do through Zoop and go directly to fans with it?
It's possible. I mean, the biggest benefit, I think for crowdfunding, from my perspective, we're going to do a Canary art book through them. It'll be awesome. So it'll just be the black and white artwork from Canary. I'm coloring the Canary work myself, but a lot of times I'll post the artwork, and people I'll post it in black and white and they go, oh my God, I wish this book was just in black and white. And, I feel that way too, because like we were talking about the Warren books and creepy and eerie. Like I love black and white comic book art also. So
me too.
Yeah, I'm excited. We get to do a special artist edition, and Zoop will be handling that. And we're going to release that around the same time that Dark Horse releases the physical edition of Canary. But it'll be different enough that it's not going to, if you're buying the art book for Canary, you're buying the art book for Canary. You're not using it as a, I'm going to read the first issue. In fact, we might not even have the word balloons on the art. Most likely we won't.
That sounds great, man. No.
As far as like coming up with a comic from crowdfunding, it depends, because what I like, I'm just a traditionalist in the sense, is what I like, maybe it doesn't even make sense these days, but I really like seeing it in a bookstore or a comic book store. And it's harder to get those distribution channels unless somebody really major picks that thing up. Sometimes comic book stores will pick up a crowdfunded book, but you don't often see those in stores.
No, I hear you, man. Absolutely. And again, I think it's all kind of like figuring itself out. And thankfully too, I do think there are publishers after the fact that will see a Kickstarter success and,
100%.
And say,
yeah,
hey,
so, I guess it was like Jimmy Palmiotti does that quite a bit. Like he'll do these amazing crowdfunded books that he creates, and then he will distribute them via Image Comics or whoever. Jimmy's very enterprising. I was going to say young man, but he's a little older than you, I think.
He might be.
Yeah, but I mean, Jimmy's interesting in the sense that I met him when I was 21. I think Jimmy was probably 28, almost 30 or something like that. But he's more of a kid than any of us. He's a kid. He has that very youthful approach to life, which you need. It's important.
Well, man. Hey, listen, I've been in radio broadcasting for over 30 years, and thankfully podcasting came along to me at the right time. And I'm more energized than I ever was in my radio career because of the opportunities of doing your own thing have afforded me, and especially with platforms like my podcast network, Spreaker, and YouTube now, and it's great. So no, that's my kinship that I always feel with comic book creatives as well, in terms of we have a little more control of what we do, and there are more opportunities for us to do it ourselves. And Jimmy, I've been having this conversation with Jimmy for over 12 years in terms of Kickstarter and what he does and how he's been smart about it and how he gets these things done and gets them out there.
What's nice about, especially from Jimmy's perspective and guys like him, as a person working in the industry, you have so many ideas that you want to put forth, and you pitch them all. Like I said, I pitched a lot of stuff to Boom, and maybe I would have preferred this one or that one, but in the end, it's up to the publisher. When you're doing something crowdfunded, say if you're doing it on Zoop or Kickstarter or Indiegogo, whatever your passion is, if that resonates with fans, it's going to be a success. And you don't have anybody dictating what you do or saying yes or no. It's great.
Zach wanted to know about slots. I don't know about slots.
Did you say Zach, as in Mike Zach?
Zach.
Oh,
sadly, I'd love it if Mike was watching. Mike's been on.
If Mike Zach was watching, I might faint. So, what we're going to do is with slots. Slots was through Skybound, and so Skybound and I own that 50-50.
Okay.
And I don't know if the response from Slots was big enough to warrant a second series, although I have like 3 series in mind. That's a favorite thing I've ever done. I'd love to revisit it. And, who knows? You never know. Maybe it could, again, what might be nice, and I'm sure I'd have Skybound's blessing, is doing an artist edition version of that.
Cool.
It'd be cool to see, because all that work is done with washes, and it has that kind of old school feel. I like it. I used a very limited palette when I colored slots, and but it stands up well in black and white too. So that'd be cool to see moving forward. I've wanted to kind of acquire slots from Skybound, but that's contractually, that probably won't happen.
Tell me about the story. I don't know about slots, so yeah, give me the.
Slots is a Vegas story, but it's kind of a crime noir book. It has a lot of boxing in it. It has a lot of gambling, a lot of drinking, and it's about downtown Vegas, the side of Vegas you don't see too often, the Fremont area.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so I like that era. I got an opportunity right around the time before I wrote Slots. Tony Hsieh, the guy who had Zappos before he passed away, he brought his entire company to downtown Vegas, and he really wanted to revitalize downtown. And his idea was to, similar to like why Greenwich Village is so special in New York, it's all the artists and musicians. So he wanted to bring artists and musicians and eccentric businesses and personalities into downtown, and he would help finance. Like he'd go, okay, do you want a store? Let's work with you and do this. In my case, I had like my own apartment, so I could a friend of mine, these guys, these writers, one of them is John Davis, who's a good pal of mine. We'd go down there and hang out with Tony Hsieh, and it was neat. I mean, it was just interesting, and I hadn't really seen that side of Vegas before, and it's a little groundy, and this kind of ground floor sort of look at Vegas. So it really inspired the location and the characters. The characters are all based on characters that I've known in my own life. So it's a great, in my opinion, it's a great crime story in the sense that it's not slick crime. It's not like Ocean's 11 where there's all these masterminds are pulling off these capers. These are idiots trying to make their way, and in most cases, not from personal experience, but a lot of the crime stuff not very well thought out. Let's put it that way.
Dude, that sounds great. I love noir crime stories in general, and also not only do I love boxing, but actually got to write articles for Ring Magazine and Boxing Illustrated back in the 90s for many years.
Wow, that's really cool, John. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know about your love of boxing, Dan. So that's great. Did you know any boxers?
My dad was a professional boxer.
Wow.
So I grew up with Ring Magazine, and that's my love of. I still box. I got a big. I love it. So
there you go, everybody. I have to show those Ring Magazine with Donnie Lalonde, my good friend.
You know what? I know his brother.
No way.
Yeah, his brother's a trainer at Fortune's gym. He's also a massage therapist.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, he's a good boxer himself. The brother's really talented, pretty great footwork, and great boxer.
So do you still, well, first of all, what division did your dad fight in?
He was a middleweight.
Cool.
Yeah, and he was fighting in Cleveland in probably the early 50s or very late 40s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dan, I swear, and I'm saying this publicly because I want to keep myself honest, my ambition eventually is to do an IBC kind of docudrama covering that period of your dad's when, frankly, the mob was running boxing.
Well, that's the problem. That's why I got out of boxing, because the mob was running it, and there's a lot of fights that were fixed, and that's a big part of the comic book Slots is fixing fights.
I hear you, man. No, I'm fascinated. Oh my God. And also I'm looking at the time because I know I promised you only like 45 to an hour. So I don't want to, and especially you're doing your last page of
I know. I gotta finish that page.
Well, real fast, let's see. First of all, Nick Barucci's watching, and he goes, Nick's been great to me this week. And thank you again, Nick. I'm so glad you're watching. And Nick, I really do want to get you on Word Balloon.
You should get him on there. Nick's
well, I had Joe on before, and a lot of Dynamite creators. But you're right. No, I should get Nick on. Dan is one of the best creators in the industry. Jumping in to ask everyone to hit that thumbs up and support. John, thanks, Nick. I'm literally reading it live, so that's very nice. Yeah, everybody, if you haven't already done it, subscribe, like all the YouTube nonsense, but please support. But also, So Dan, are you watching current boxing and everything?
I still do. I mean, I'm really into MMA.
That's cool.
I'm super into that, but I watch all the best of boxing. I was going to say with Nick, with his company, we got some interesting projects coming up. I don't know
great
if
to hear.
Nick wants to talk about them. Sometimes they want to release this stuff when they want to release it, but we got some cool things coming out with
man,
Mr. Barucci.
Well, that's good to hear, because truly, and Nick knows this if he follows Word Balloon, and I know he does, I don't want to screw up anybody's marketing plans. That's great to hear. And also the fact that Nick also delves into other genres. I can only imagine what you might be coming up with. But, well, and a future conversation when we have more time, I would love to talk to you about boxing as well as comics. And also Stephanie Phillips, I just had her on a week or two ago, and she was telling me that you guys are obviously kindred spirits when it comes to combat.
Yeah, I mean, she does. She was doing kickboxing, I believe. I mean, I could see her jumping back in the ring. You never know with her.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's super talented writer, and she's got
amazing
so many cool things happening right now.
I completely agree with you, man. And now, all right, would you ever want to do like a Wildcat DC book?
I think about Wildcat. I'd have to find a fun way to do it. Obviously, I'd like to do a battling Murdoch.
Jack
story.
Murdoch, absolutely, yes, indeed. Daredevil's dad.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do something like that. I'd have to really take a look at Wildcat to see how to reinterpret that. There was a phenomenal episode. I think it was Justice League or something. They had Wildcat on it, and they did a great job with him. They really portrayed him well. It was kind of cool to watch. I get to watch. I have a young son, so I get to watch all these cartoons and hang out with them. I'm like, oh, I love this cartoon. This is a great one. You know.
That's great. So I'm assuming your son is into, or daughter is into superheroes.
Yeah, he totally is, and I didn't want to push him in that way in any sense, but he loves it, and he can recognize my artwork. I'm doing some artwork for the Natural History Museum, and I've been doing it since he was probably 4 or 5, and he'd watch me draw all these dinosaurs, and then he'd see him on television, like on PBS. They'd run advertisements for it, and he'd go, "Daddy, you drew that." Even at a young age, he could spot the art style, so I'm maybe kind of happy. He'll go, "Daddy, I like this. I don't like this thing you drew." I'm like, "Okay, all right."
That's cool.
It's nice to hear. He's a great kid. I'm really lucky. He's a really super kid to have in my life.
That's excellent, man. Is your dad still with us, or has he passed?
No, he passed away. I was 28, so
okay,
a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I am so fascinated by that 40s, 50s boxing period, and I've read everything I could find and lay my hands on, even the congressional transcripts of the Kefauver hearings when they finally really went after Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo, the 2 mob guys that were in charge of boxing.
Yeah, and you remember like Don King was from Cleveland too.
Oh yeah, numbers runner, as I'm sure you know. I mean, it was doing, absolutely, man. Well, they say the Chuck Wepner Ali fight was kind of a thank you to the mob, essentially making that fight.
Oh, really?
Chuck was kind of backed by mob guys. Yeah.
Wow, that was a great fight too. It's
a fun fight, and it's certainly, if people don't know, that was the inspiration for Rocky.
Yeah,
that Wepner Ali fight.
Did you see that documentary on Wepner?
Oh yeah. Oh no, Dan, if it says boxing, I'm there right away. I mean, God, there's a couple HBO Max shows that I believe were made by like Filipino producers about boxing that I really want to see. Cool. So no, I watch everything. No, I'm such a fan, and really I have that kind of old Ring magazine handy because a good friend of mine just moved to LA and had to like part with a bunch of stuff, didn't want to bring it on the move. And he's like, "You want all this boxing stuff?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely." Plus 2 framed autographed pictures of Dempsey and Tunney.
Wow.
And I even yes. And I even back in goddamn, now that I think about it, it literally was 20 years ago. It was the 75th anniversary of Dempsey Tunney. And I made an audio documentary. It's on the Word Balloon feed of that fight at Soldier Field, the second fight in particular. And Bud Schulberg, the great screenwriter, the Hollywood screenwriter who did On the Waterfront. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Yeah. He knew Dempsey back in the day. And then I had a guy, Jack Kavanaugh, who was a Tunney biographer. And the other great sports writer, Roger Kahn, who did The Boys of Summer, had just released a Dempsey biography. So I had a lot of great Dempsey experts and Tunney experts to talk about them and just that fight in general and stuff. So yeah, I'm a massive fight guy. So
it's so cool to hear. Well, I hope you got to pick up slots and tell me what you think.
Hey, Zach just told me I can get it if I order it today. I can get it by Tuesday from Amazon. So I will be doing that.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to help. Hey, man, continued success. We're all very excited. Canary drops on Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday.
Yeah. I think it might. Yeah, it's the 20th. I believe that's a Wednesday. Canary number 4 comes out the same day, and then they got a bunch of other stuff. I'll have to come back on the show because there's a book coming out from AWA that they haven't talked about yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good to hear, man. No, listen, another publisher that I am a big fan of is AWA. They're amazing. And truly, everybody, I can't recommend Dan's stuff. I mean, obviously, we got fans watching and listening, but I always appreciate your work, man. And whether it's you guys just shooting the shit on Drink and Draw or the actual commercial product that comes out, I'm always paying attention. So, yeah, please come back.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have a fun rest of your Sunday, and thanks for everybody who tuned in. Cheers, you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan. And everybody, thank you for watching. And it's going to be a busy week. I'm talking to Ron Mars tomorrow night. So that'll be fun, about a brand new Aftershock book that he has. And yeah, so, but also everybody, if you're heading to San Diego, you got to go to the Best Jacket panel, right? What day is that?
Go to Best Jacket, go to Comixology, go to Essential Sequentials booth. We have some original art there, prints, signed comics, and also be at Aftershock signing. I'll also be at Boom signing copies of Alice, etc. So yeah, I'm pretty busy. Panels and appearances galore.
That's great. Holy shit, Zach actually bought slots for me. How about that? So I've already got it coming on Tuesday. So that's great. So we will discuss slots and more boxing in our next conversation. That's seriously, thanks, Zach. That's incredibly kind. Yeah, so
that's very cool of you.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Hold on 1 second, Dan, real fast, if you don't mind. After we finish the broadcast, because I know you got to get back to work. I don't want to mess you up. But everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Everybody, stay safe and stay happy and healthy, and we'll see.